Well, right now, a pastor serving at Prince of Peace in Pickerington is making history. History he hopes to continue through his congregation and beyond. 10 TV's Ashley Bernanson has Pastor Douglas Grace's message.
Oh, I can barely stop crying.
Pastor Douglas Grace says it's hard to dry his eyes as he cries tears of joy. Originally from Coshocton, Grace has made his way back to his home state. He most recently served in Washington, D.C. After 33 years in ministry,
You
got to ask the president, does anything scare him?
You know, well, when Michelle's mad.
I believe in the non-binary God, whose pronouns are plural. I believe in Jesus Christ, their child, who wore a fabulous tunic and had 2 dads, and saw everyone as a sibling child of God. I believe in the rainbow spirit, who shatters our image of one white light and refracts it into a rainbow of gorgeous diversity. I believe in the Church of Everyday Saints, as numerous, creative, and resilient as patches on the Ace quilt, whose feet are grounded in mud and whose eyes gaze at the stars in wonder. I believe in the calling to each of us that love is love is love.
She was wondering if there was a place for a gay pastor like her. At the same time, First Covenant was cast aside for affirming there should always be a place for a gay pastor or any gay person like her.
And I remember feeling like our journeys were so aligned, of, you know, having this stance of really feeling like we are called to love all people and feeling like this is the right side of justice and the right side of Christianity. Is to be inclusive and welcoming of all.
Feeling became the foundation of a partnership. Pastor Gia came to First Covenant. And then, in the last few months, something bigger happened.
It's shocking, really.
That's how she describes the moment when church leaders said, "It's time to lead, Gia, and we want you."
Are you sure about that? Because I don't know of any Black lesbian pastor ever stepping into any role.
Amy Garola has the story you'll see only on 6.
Some churches are still struggling with the inclusivity of LGBTQ people, but the pastor you're about to meet says he had faith his denomination would eventually come around.
So I am still the pastor at St. John's on the Lake United Methodist Church, but I am officially now the Reverend Kip Nelson.
It's a position that Reverend Kip Nelson has poured his heart and soul into getting. Nelson and a group of 14 others recently attended the annual Florida Clergy Conference for the United Methodist Church. It's where clergy are ordained and advance to senior positions. Last year, Nelson and his group, which included straight people, were denied the new roles because he and 2 other people are gay.
It was quite painful, to be honest, being the face and the target of people's hatred and bigotry it's not a comfortable place to be.
Last week, Nelson's class was commissioned by a vote with 92.5% approval. The threshold is 75%. Last year, they fell shy by just 3%.
Today, I'm feeling a huge sigh of relief, to be honest. I feel like a huge weight of bricks has been lifted off of my chest. I can breathe a little more fully and freely.
and says he's the first openly gay pastor in the Presbyterian Church in Greater Columbus.
It's okay to be who you are, and it's to be inclusive, and it's to be loving, and it's to be missional.
Grace says it was encouragement from a spiritual mentor who helped him make peace and share his sexual identity with the faith community.
Bishop Kelly said, if you're going to be a peacemaker, you got to be at peace.
While some continue to ask,
can you be gay and a man of faith? Now, we always, I was just about to say, this is the part where we're supposed to hand it over to you to give us some words of faith and inclusion and hope going into the weekend. You've already given us so many. So we're going to ask you to continue what you have been doing and give folks, I guess, just some words of love and inclusion, kind of your message they can take with them going into the weekend.
I've been reading Ephesians 3, where it talks about how Jesus expands our understanding of God, showing us the breadth and the depth and the height of what is to come. And so I just want to encourage anyone who has felt like their faith is being stretched to remember that God is with you and for you. And if your neighbor is stretching you to love bigger, love bigger. If your neighbor is stretching you to be more patient, do the best you can. Or maybe your kids are stretching you in all the directions they're stretching you. But know that God adores you, that I adore you, and if you got a little extra time this weekend, tell people you are grateful for them and that you love them too. And if you haven't heard it from your own faith community, come join us in the Lutheran Church. We'd love to have you in the pews to pray with us.
I love it there at the end. Reverend Dr. Megan Rohr, it is so good to have you. Congratulations. You're starting the post in September officially. We hope to check in with you again down the road, all right?
Thank you very much.
Well, this Pride Month, we're featuring the faces of those who appear in this year's Portrait of Pride.
Tonight, a pastor who is working to open the minds of the faithful by being himself. WBZ's Brandon Truitt with the story at the intersection of religion and identity.
On any given day, you'll find Pastor Brandon Thomas Crowley in his office under a picture of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but his real work is done here.
You've got to learn how to see your differences as what God wants to use.
Behind the pulpit of Myrtle Baptist Church in Newton, the 37-year-old has come a long way from his childhood in Rome, Georgia, but he knew from the beginning he wanted to preach.
I've always been very enamored by the black church. I was raised in the black church. The deacons and leaders of my home churches were like superheroes to me, and I looked up to them. They were my Michael Jordans.
But there's an added layer to this story. Crowley is gay, and he says he always has been.
When I would preach on the front porch, I would often do so in my grandmother's high heels.
Crowley navigated a career of ministry cloaked in one of the most contentious cultural debates of our time, homosexuality at the intersection of religion. He ran into resistance from the beginning.
I remember one time there were kids outside that were throwing rocks at me and laughing at me because I was on the front porch preaching with a robe on, with my grandmother's high heels and a stiff rag that she used for washing dishes. And I ran in the house and I was crying with my Bible, and she looked at me and she turned me about face and she said, "You go back out there and you continue preaching."
His family affirming from the start. Identities, be it sexual or religious, can be hard to balance for many in the LGBTQ community. It seems impossible for some. Crowley says it's not always been smooth sailing, but he's been confident he was not the problem.
I have always known that I was queerfully and wonderfully made. The queering that I do in churches is not bringing churches into the world or bringing the world into churches. It's actually drawing churches closer to the original message of Christ, which is about love and acceptance.
Crowley went to Morehouse Harvard Divinity School and finished with a doctorate from Boston University. He became pastor of the historic Myrtle Baptist Church in 2009. Years later, he would be guest preaching at another Boston church where he would meet Tyrone Sutton. Years later, they would marry.
I'm proud of the work that he's been able to do, and I encourage him so much because it means so much for musicians like myself.
Sutton is successful in his own right. The assistant principal at the Boston Arts Academy, plays organ at a different church.
The soundscapes in our home are me upstairs preparing for sermons and rehearsing my sermons out loud.
And I'm down on the piano just playing the tracks that I'm getting ready for Sunday morning.
Sutton was raised in Alabama, just an hour from where Crowley grew up in Georgia, and he knows the struggle of coming up gay in church.
And we have many times had to sit through so often and listen to homophobic sermons, homophobic messages in the church while still sitting there and have to play behind contributing to the process.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
My God, what if his appearance occurs on a Sunday morning? My prophetic word to you this morning